time to start the show, and you see I was ready for it this time. So ha 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 ha.
Indeed. It is time to start the show, and the show has, in fact, started.
Ta-da!
Welcome, everybody, to the Unready room. Unready as always. And to talk about the Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra Per Aspera, and nothing else, right? There's nothing else happening in the world or in the Star Trek world or anything like that.
Not that I know of, nope.
Nope. Ah,
damn it.
Damn it, indeed. So I'm assuming everybody who's tuned in has heard the news already. So first of all, welcome to everybody who is tuning in live, and welcome everybody who's watching this later.
Yes.
We do, in fact, have to talk a little bit about Star Trek Prodigy and that whole mess that we were treated to with a bombshell announcement yesterday. That this, I'm pissed about so many things to do with this. But number one on that list is the previously announced to be coming back for season 2 show, Star Trek Prodigy. They've walked that back and said it's canceled and not coming back for season 2. So, like, first of all, we can just never trust them when they say a show's coming back for season 2 now, or season whatever.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they'll just say, actually, nah.
Yeah. And the fact that season 2 is almost finished, who cares?
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Now, the bit of glimmer of hope and silver lining, of course, is that they are allowing them to finish the post-production work on season 2 in the hopes of shopping it around to someone else to carry it other than Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus, which, if they're doing that, they seem hopeful that that will actually happen. It's just a shame that that has to happen in order for us to get season 2 now. So there is still a chance that a la Batwoman, this could be done, finished in the can somewhere and just never released.
To be fair, that's Batgirl, not Batwoman.
Thank you. Sorry. I knew as soon as I said it, I was like, I got something wrong there. But so I mean, I personally think that's a small chance. I think it is a pretty good chance that we'll be able to see this eventually, but it's just, let's just throw speed bumps and roadblocks in its way and see if it'll fail. Like that, I hate this. I hate it all.
Some freaking executive who has not a creative bone in their body is who did this. I don't know who it is, but you suck, dude. And I'm sure you're a dude. I'm absolutely sure that you're a dude and not a lady.
It's the odds-on favorite, yeah.
Yeah. It truly, truly is. So, yeah, and Dan, you and I were talking about this before we started the show. It's like they don't understand that you can't continually get new subscribers. It doesn't work that way. Eventually, you're gonna top off. And that's what's happened to all of these streaming services, because there are only so many people out there who don't have your service. And a lot of them either can't afford it, aren't in an area that carries it, or they don't want your damn service. So
yeah. And like, people who follow what I do know I'm pretty positive about stuff, and I try to be pretty upbeat about stuff. But I there was one comment somewhere that I just have to signal boost here. They basically said some executive made a really stupid decision in the desperate race for number 6. Like, as far as streaming services go, like, sorry, Paramount Plus, like, get over yourself. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. And I don't think they understand the fan base that they have angered. I really don't think that they get it at all. No. But they will.
Oh, yes.
They will, if they haven't already.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that brings me to the other thing that pisses me off about this. It's going to disappear, not going to have season 2. Season 1's going to disappear off of Paramount Plus within the next few days.
And where's the Blu-ray for the second half of season 1? Where's that?
Yeah.
Are those episodes just going to go into the light? I mean,
I don't know. I maybe if they want to make a few quick bucks, they'll release like a pretty bare bones version, maybe.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. The
This is
bean
why I,
counters are in charge.
yeah, it's, and you know what happens when the bean counters are in charge? Creativity dies.
Hmm.
Creativity dies, diversity dies, all of those things just die. We can't let it die, folks. We can't let it die.
No, for sure. And I mean, yeah, this show, it was such a glimmer of hope in Star Trek, like bringing in younger viewers. And not only just like that benefit for the Star Trek universe, the fact that it was a show for younger viewers that espoused things like diversity and thinking through problems and working together. I don't have kids. I'm not a kid myself anymore. I don't know what the field of kids programming looks like right now, but I have to think that Star Trek Prodigy was one of the good ones, you know. And that's a loss that it's gone or potentially gone for that group as well, right?
Yeah. It just breaks my heart because there's so much noise in the world and so many things vying for your attention, especially when you're a child.
Hmm.
And Star Trek is like one of the things that cuts through the noise and helps us create a better future
Yeah,
because it shows us what's possible and it also reminds us of what's happening right now, and
yeah,
that crap needs to stop or we don't get to that Star Trek future. So, yeah.
absolutely. All right. Well, the other thing that really ticks me off about all of this is that it came in a week in which we have such a flippin' brilliant episode of
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds. And this discussion was going to be just riding a wave of how amazing that episode was, which we're going to get to, obviously. But now it
Mhm.
kind of has to start off on this ugly note, which sucks. So, but we
Curse you,
will.
bean counters!
Exactly. But yeah, let's move past that for now
Yes.
and move on. We're gonna shake it off, come back another day fighting for Star Trek Prodigy. But right now we're gonna talk about Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Ad Astra per Aspera. Um, my God. I love this episode. I'm just gonna say it right off the top. This was incredible. When I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is right up there with, you know, some of the best Star Trek episodes. And reading a lot of reviews that I've seen online of what other people think, Keith DeCandido's review I loved. He talked about how each series does like the courtroom drama episode,
Mm,
and you know, mentions, you know, some of them being not great and some of them being among the best episodes, right? Measure of a Man. And then
yeah.
he ends that part of the review by saying this episode blows all of those away, which I'm not. Measure of a Man has a really special place, but wow, to hear Keith say that this blows Measure of a Man away is there's some love for this episode out there, and very well earned, well deserved love.
Agreed. I would have a hard time picking a favorite over the two because before that, the standard of for me was Measure of a Man, and I have
Hmm.
met Melinda Snodgrass, and she's a tiny person. She's like 5 foot nothing, delightful, intelligent, articulate, all of those things, obviously, because she's a writer. But she has been a lawyer, and she has sung opera, and she trains horses, and she's got all this. She's got all these different things that she's done in her life that just blow my mind.
Hmm.
So, still, kudos to Melinda Snodgrass for setting the bar, and for this episode for raising the bar.
Hmm. 100%. So this one was written by Dana Horgan. So,
A lady.
yep,
And directed by a lady.
Valerie Weiss. Yep, absolutely.
Mhm.
And the first thing I want to say watching this, that really struck me is I don't know anything about Dana Horgan or anybody else who may have contributed anything to this, but somebody is a legal expert. Um,
Mhm.
I loved how in depth it got into legalities and stuff, which, you know, a lot of people kind of like throw up their hands and say, ugh, you know, lawyers and stuff. But it's a fascinating world, and it's really interesting. I would point to the kind of the dialogue espousing love of the law and
Mhm.
why law is important and something to be celebrated. And somebody very clearly has a lot of those feelings um, writing this episode. I think I don't, like I said, I don't know her background, but it feels like there's a lot of that kind of knowledge infused into this.
Agreed. Agreed, because I've watched my fair share of legal dramas, not that I necessarily enjoyed them, but I grew up watching so much Perry Mason with my mom and dad. I mean, so much Perry Mason. Basically any kind of mystery solving show or courtroom drama, but, you know, I stopped with, like, Law& and Order. I was just like, "Nope, this is too real. I'm done. I'm done here. I don't need this in my life. I already have it going on in real life, and I don't wanna watch it dramatized on television. It's just too hard on me." So, yeah, I stopped watching legal dramas there. But yeah, obviously, she knows her stuff, and that
Hmm.
was obvious very, very early on in the episode. It's from the moment that we cut to Pike finally trying to get a meeting with Nira and and just their conversation. It just shows that she knows a lot about civil law, especially.
Hmm. Yeah, which is interesting. I like when we get that kind of crossing of the streams a little bit, the
Mhm.
military law, the court martial, and that sort of thing, and then the civilian counselor. We kind of got that in the TOS episode Court Martial with Samuel T. Cogley, attorney at law, which would have made a great spin-off of Star Trek, by the way, now that I think of that. Um,
Maybe we can have one with Nira.
I was gonna say I would totally watch a Nira Khatul attorney at law
Yeah,
series.
absolutely.
But yeah, apparently she's got a bunch of civil rights cases that are in various stages that aren't necessarily going well. And Pike has done his homework as well and kind of says, you know, maybe this win would draw attention to those cases that they maybe desperately need.
Yeah, and she'd already had a lot of cases dismissed or thrown out because of lack of evidence, according to the
Hmm.
court. Uh, so, yeah. Yeah, there's still the whole thing going on of why she wouldn't even talk to Una. There was obviously a beef there, which I kind of figured out from episode 1 when he's talking to Una and she says, you know, she won't talk to me, and he says, "Yeah,
Hmm.
she's not taking my calls either."
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's I figured that there was something that happened between them a while ago and that it had something to do with being Illyrian, but I didn't know what it was until this episode.
Hmm.
But you can when Nira finally does show up, which is actually not that far after this scene with Pike, you kinda just you can feel this undercurrent between the 2 of them, which
Yeah.
again, a nod to not just the writing, but also the acting, the directing. So it
Yeah.
was it just there isn't a flaw in this entire episode that I can think of.
Hmm. And in a lot of ways, it feels like it should come across as rushed, but it doesn't. It's
Mm-mm.
the pacing is really well done here. In the teaser, we have a flashback to Una's childhood, and we see that she's suffering from an infection from a broken leg, and her parents aren't willing to take her to the hospital because they'll be discovered, kind of thing. Then we go to Una getting told that she's being offered dishonorable discharge and nothing else, and you know she should take that, and the thing with her lawyer. Then it goes to Pike visiting Nira, convincing Nira to take the case. Then we get back to Federation space and Nira walking in, taking the case, getting the announcement that because that they rejected the deal, now they're seeking dishonorable discharge and 20 years in prison, basically. And from there, we go to the opening credits. Like,
Yeah, big, long, cold open again, 2 in a row.
yeah, a huge teaser. Um, my wife and I kind of have this joke, and it's funny every single time. Whenever we're watching a show and then it gets to the opening credits, one of us will say, "Oh, it hasn't even started yet." Um, and that I really felt that this time around when Nikki said that, because, like, boy, a lot happened before this episode even starts, according to how we. But yeah, so I found that really funny, but at the same time, at no point did I ever feel it was rushed. I feel like everything was allowed to breathe, and we get to know, or at least get an inkling of motivations of everybody involved right away. We see just through, subtle things going on, how things are stacked against Una in the court currently without having someone there to advocate for her, and all of this stuff. I really loved it. It was very tightly, very well written.
Yeah, and, the fact that by rejecting the plea deal, they're now going for sedition, I'm like, "Ugh,
Right, yeah, that too.
wow, look at this woman. Sedition? Really?"
Mhm,
But, that it's that bias. It's that old racism, which is basically what it is, that these old fears that made this law, and yet they don't change the law, they don't amend the law, and ugh, yeah,
mhm.
it's gross, man, it's gross.
Yeah, absolutely. And, yeah, so there's a lot of parallels too, I think, happening in this episode.
Mm,
Obviously, some of the language used where, they talk about, through no fault of her own, she was born this way, and, like, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now that this, I think, if you're tuned into it and you're reading it through the correct lens, you see the statement they're making about a lot of the prejudices that we have as a society today that continue to get. And I mean, they get directly called out later in Catul's closing arguments, but also in the course of the episode, you kind of get what they're trying to say a little bit, which I really appreciate. I think that is Star Trek at its finest for sure.
yeah, it's well, and Nira flat out says, you know, slavery used to be legal. Apartheid
Mhm,
used to be legal. Like, yes, say those words because those things are still happening in some degree in some
mhm,
part of the world. And it's just, ugh, her talking about how people have been persecuted for how they worship, how they love, the color of their skin. It's just, yeah, we're still doing that. We're still in the dark ages where equality is concerned, and where just allowing to live and let live is concerned. How is it that hard? How is
mhm.
it that hard? And yet here we are.
Yeah. Well, so we get into the actual case, and I want to talk a bit about Admiral April's time on the stand, which
Oh
you kind of
yes,
alluded to there.
let's please talk about Admiral April's time on the stand.
Yeah, so we get several more instances of Federation captains flouting the Prime Directive.
Mm,
It wasn't the Prime Directive at the time, but
but it
it
was
was
still
still
General Order
General Order
1.
Number One. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's interesting. Every captain of the Enterprise has, well, that we've explored in any kind of depth,
Mm.
has run up against that rule from time to time.
Yep.
Hmm. I'm interested. I want to see. That's one thing we've never gotten, I don't think, is a courtroom drama in Star Trek where the argument is the Prime Directive or having broken the Prime Directive. It's come up in a bunch of them. I mean, the
Mhm.
Drumhead, for example, and this episode, but it's never been the central focus of like a case, and I feel like that would be a lot of fun.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I would love to see how they handle that.
Mhm. For sure.
Definitely. Yeah. I just, I just wanna say about April, because this really, um I just need to get it off my chest. So, when they go through all of those instances and he gets his knickers in a twist and, and is saying all these things, and he says that he still wouldn't have sponsored her application knowing that she was an Illyrian, and I'm like, "You need to sit your butt down. You just sit down and you shut up and you just think about what you just said.
Mhm.
You just think about what you just said, Admiral April. Think
Yeah.
about the history of your people and think about what you just said." April was wrong.
Yeah, agreed. The one thing that kind of bugged me a bit too is that scene with April and Pike afterwards, where
Oh,
he gets
so
like that
yeah.
parting shot in where he's like,
Mhm.
Una did this, this, and that. Too bad the jury didn't get to hear that, or whatever. The court didn't get to hear that. And like, dude, the first,
Whiny little baby April.
yeah, the first thing you said, the only thing you said was, no, I still wouldn't have, so yeah, I don't know what his point there was, because if he'd have had his way, or if he'd have done as he said, none of those would have happened anyway. So are you
Mm,
in favor of the lives she's saved, or are you like, he undercut his own? I don't know.
I
I
know.
just like, ugh.
He was just pissed off because he was caught with his pants down. That's
Mhm.
what. That's exactly it. He is an admiral. This stuff doesn't happen to admirals. Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, it does. We just saw it, and we can't unsee it. Even though your testimony was stricken from the record, it's still up here.
Mhm. Um, so I also want to talk about, there's a bunch in this episode I want to talk about. There's so much good in here, but I want to talk a bit about La'an, who,
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
yeah, I think she had a wonderful turn in this episode too. The immediate wanting to do something for Una, and going to her counselor and saying like, if the evidence was gotten in a illegal fashion with that, okay, I'll look into this. And you can tell like the guilt on her face, and it's related to her immediate reaction to finding out she's Illyrian.
Mhm.
And that reveal, when she admits that it was, maybe her personal log, and what she said in her personal log, and the the shame on her face, and then the like utter relief on her face when Cthulhu informs her that like there's no possible way that could have been it. It was another, they found out another way. I love her performance, is so subtle but so good in this.
Yes, well, and it starts with her telling Uhura to get all the logs for the last 6 months, including personal logs, and Uhura's like, "Oh, what now? No, I'm not gonna do that."
Mhm.
And La'an is so desperate, she's just, she's putting on the "I'm your superior officer" thing, and, I'm making that an order, and she says, "I'm not gonna follow an illegal order, that will not go well for either of us."
Yeah. I loved that they took that tack in the episode, because like so many times we've seen, people willing to kind of bend or whatever on that kind of stuff. Well, if it'll really help, whatever, blah blah blah. I love that. Like, again, I think somebody with a legal background put a lot of thought
Mhm,
into this episode. And yeah, Uhura's line, like, I'm not following an illegal order. That was great. Like, you're basically risking getting any evidence you find thrown out anyway, so it
mhm,
would not make a difference. And so many times in a lot of courtroom dramas, not just Star Trek, elsewhere, there's that piece of evidence that gets marched into the courtroom at the last second, that shocks everybody and turns everything around, and like 9 times out of 10, yeah, it'd probably get thrown out because of X, Y, or Z reason. And I really like that. Like, no, we're going to do this right.
Yes. I love that Uhura is becoming so confident.
Hmm.
It's a very different Uhura than what we had in season 1, and I think that's because she has decided that this is her place, and she's growing into that even more, especially, like, in first episode when she's like, "You are not gonna reboot my comms, this is my station."
Hmm.
So, yeah, I love that about her, and I I love that she is being completely respectful to La'an as well, and she's telling her, you know, "You Una was your mentor, you are mine,
I love that.
and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you do this." Yeah, La'an has got a lot to offer this season. I think we're gonna be seeing a lot more of her depth because she's past a few things. I think that episode 9 of season 1
Hmm.
really was a turning point for her character and her mindset, the mindset of that character. So it's gonna be fun to see all the interesting ways that she, develops in this season, along with Uhura.
Yeah, for sure. Um, and yeah, I feel like we didn't get a lot from her in season 1 beyond the kind of angry, brooding character, which was interesting, and she played that incredibly well as well. But yeah, like you said, I'm kind of interested to see what she's like past that. What
Mhm.
where the growth in her character is going to take her from having gone through that. I think that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, because from episode 10 of season 1, we kinda have a little peek into what she could be like when she let
Exactly.
go of all of that stuff. So, hmm.
Yeah. Let her hair down, literally and figuratively, right? So,
Yeah, because honestly, those braids look so tight, like, her scalp
oh,
has got to hurt.
yeah, I get that same feeling.
It makes me hurt to look at him, it really does. I'm like, "Oh, honey, loosen that up a little. That's gonna cause damage."
Totally. Um, I really wanna talk about, the Vulcan Council, Cthulhu. Was that his n no, sorry. What was his name?
Admiral
Um,
Pissoff?
oh my goodness.
I mean, Admiral Pasalk?
Pasal, thank you. Sorry.
No,
I
he's
went
Admiral
the wrong way.
Pissoff in my book.
Yes. Admiral Pasal, piss off. I like that. Um, unintentionally hilarious throughout this episode, or intentionally hilarious, maybe. Um, but first of all, that scene where he's talking with Spock, and Ortegas and Mbenga are observing this interaction, and we've got Ortegas kind of doing the like dry Vulcan blah blah blah, and oh yeah, oh what a great conversation, and Benga's like, you're not seeing the tension. You're not. She's like, are you kidding? No, they hate each other. And then Spock, I apologize that you had to witness that outburst.
I love how he has to find the word, that outburst.
I love that. That was so good.
It was great, and I felt the same tension too that Mbenga saw. I saw them sitting across from each other, I'm like, "Oh, no, no. No, no, they are not having a good time," or at least Spock's not having a good time. Admiral Pissoff probably is because he's a jerk, but, you know,
Mhm.
sorry, I can't stop calling him that. It happened accidentally in a podcast, and now I can't stop.
No, I like it. I like it. It fits. Um, so yeah, the big scene with him, of course, later in the episode towards the end is the one that I think Patrick is alluding to here, where the reason Pike hasn't taken the stand, and it's very brilliantly illustrated by the opposing council, um,
Patel, yeah.
Captain Patel, that he.
It's Batel with a B.
Oh, is that? Oh, that's right. Yeah, Batel. Yeah, um, is that like he can't answer some questions that are gonna very obviously be put to him, right? When did you know that she was an Illyrian? And he sat on that information, right? So, um, I think Pasalk, and there could be something personal there against Pike. I personally think it was him realizing the tides were turning against them in their case, and
Mm,
he wanted a win. I you know, that was my impression as to why he went after Pike in that moment. It could be there could be something deeper, but I think it was, we want to win, we want our pound of flesh kind of thing. And if we're not going to take Una down for the full 20 years in sedition, we're going to go after some bigger fish here.
yeah. And to me, that just seems dumb. It's
Mhm.
like
It's
Spock said,
panicky. It's yeah.
it's makes no sense for Starfleet to punish itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but some Vulcans are just like that. I think it was Patrick, maybe. I think it was you, Patrick, who said that it seemed like he might be a logic extremist.
Hmm.
So, interesting thought.
Yeah, it could be for sure. As much as I hate him, obviously, and he's just
Mhm.
such an unlikable character, I kind of want to see more of him. Like,
As
I
a foil, yes, sure.
yeah, absolutely. Like, just
A-
this, like, what is wrong with this guy?
And to see him taken down every time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That would be fun. Or, flip expectations and have him be, I don't know, have him like he's in the JAG office, right? So maybe
Mhm.
some other character comes in legal trouble and like his instincts are like necessary for the salvation of some character or something. I would be interested. I love
Mm,
characters, like I feel like he would be fun to watch. Like the way he cross-examines Una there, it was fun to watch. As much as you hate him, I was like, oh, this
mhm.
is meaty, this is good, I like this.
Yeah, and I do love when Battelle gets up to cross-examine and he puts a hand on her shoulder, and I'm just like, "Oh, no. Oh, no. This is not good."
Hand out and just slowly stands up. You're just like,
Mhm,
"Ooh, nope." And then before that too, I hated him when they're like observing the proceedings and he just like without even looking just like jabs Battelle and she's like,
mhm.
"Objection." Like, oh, I hate this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, she was really not happy. She was the one who even said, "Now that Una's rejected the plea deal, my boss is looking at this case,
Mhm.
and that's not gonna go well for anybody."
No.
So, yeah,
And,
but
sorry.
no, it was okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and yeah, I'd be worried if he was looking into it as well because yeah, ooh. But Battelle herself, I loved her in this because like she is the epitome of just doing her job
Mhm,
and doing it competently and well. Like honestly, all things being equal, if like there wasn't the obvious inherent um prejudice and racism behind the law to begin with at the beginning, that deal that she offered Una was honestly very good. Like for what, you know what I mean? Like
mm,
if the law wasn't already fundamentally bad, if Una had done what she had done, breaking a law for reasons that weren't, whatever, like that's a good deal. And she was rightfully, I think at the time, upset that they passed on the deal because now she's having to take this adversarial position against her, and she honestly thought that was a really good deal. And I love, as the story evolves and as the evidence comes out and as the arguments are made, that final scene, that final argument, I guess I should say, where she starts to smile as she's
mhm.
reading the law, that would be the loophole that gets Una out of this. That was so much fun to see.
It was. I really enjoy Battelle a lot, and, I think part of her disappointment is that she doesn't understand
Mhm.
what it's like to have to hide who you are because somebody a while ago made a law that said you shouldn't exist.
Mhm.
She doesn't know what that's like, and so when she is upset that Una turned down the plea deal, she's coming she's coming at that from a, "I don't want to do this to her. I don't want to have to do this. I don't want my boss to get involved." I But she doesn't understand why Una rejected the deal because
Mhm.
she it seems like she hasn't been through anything like that in her life, where she was
Exactly, yeah.
told to, you know, keep who she was secret. So, yeah, and that's another really terrible reason to give someone a plea deal. "Oh, you'll seal the records, no one will know that she's an Illyrian," and so it's like none of this ever happened, like, she never happened, and, Batelle's not thinking about any of that because she
Mhm.
doesn't have any frame of context for it.
Yeah, absolutely, and David puts it perfectly. She's under the assumption the law is just. Her
Mhm.
job was to read and interpret the law and act as the prosecuting attorney. Um, she hasn't been her eyes haven't been opened to all of the larger issues as they will be over the course of the episode, and
Yeah,
she's a good person.
it is.
She's just doing her job, and when it becomes apparent what this is all about and what it means, she's obviously on the side of the angels here. So I love it.
Agreed. Agreed.
Now, all right. Well, let's see. I'm like I wanna talk about the big revelations and the big final argument and stuff at the end. Um, but like that feels like the big thing of the episode. So I
Yes.
want to talk about some other minutia first.
Sure.
Those dress uniforms, those are freaking beautiful.
They are. They are, and, you know, they are really hearkening back to TOS without completely copying them. It's the same thing, but with a modern twist, and I know that there were tons of, you know, boys in their mom's basements complaining about that before the season even started, and I'm like, "Would you just shut up? Please, just shut up. Go shout into the void somewhere else." Uh, it's if you go back and look at TOS, those very colorful badges, I haven't done a lot of research on it, but I feel like they're service ribbons.
Mhm. That was always the impression I got. Yeah.
Yeah, because, as an admiral, April had a bunch, which is interesting because it seems like because April went up through the ranks of Starfleet on a starship, he has different and a lot more service ribbons than Admiral Pissoff does. So, or our Tellarite advocate, judge advocate, who, guess what, was played by David Benjamin Tomlinson, also known
Oh,
as Linus.
cool.
So, yeah, love seeing him. He really just is very good at prosthetics. Not everybody can be comfortable with that entire process, but he obviously takes it like a duck to water, and the more things he can be in, I'm fine with because I adored that guy. He's so cool.
Mhm. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that was him. That's great.
Yep. Yeah, that was him. That was him.
Awesome.
I watch the credits now and write stuff down. So
That's great. Well, yeah. Oh, the set also. The set
yes, the
was a
set.
redress of Starfleet Federation headquarters in Discovery, and a beautiful redress of that set. I think that worked really well.
Yeah, they brought in a lot of warm wood, and
Mhm.
those reliefs that you see with all of the justices who are not all human,
Mhm.
there are definitely a bunch of races in there, all hand carved, y'all.
That's crazy.
They hand carved that. That wasn't a digital effect. Those were real, and they were made by human hands.
Ah, that's amazing. That's
Mhm.
yeah. They did an incredible job with the so much of this episode, the writing, the direction, the acting, the
Everything.
production design, costume design, all of it. So good. I'm like you, like kind of the last time I watched the episode, I was kind of looking for a flaw. I'm like, can't really find any.
Nope. No
Hmm,
flaws here.
beautiful. Well, yeah. So we've got kind of that final argument where Cthulhu kind of figures out, I think, who informed Starfleet Command that Una was an Illyrian and puts Una on the stand, which uh, is kind of what opens her up to that questioning by Patelk that would implicate Christopher Pike. But this the revelations that she was the one, of course, who revealed her status and why she did it and why she joined Starfleet in the first place, and what that what she believed about that, and all the little things that add up to fulfilling this Starfleet directive that allows someone to request asylum with
Mhm.
Starfleet. Brilliant, like chef's kiss. Like that was really good. Even the well-timed little flashback to parts of her testimony, um laying that case out. And as that revelation is made, the kind of, like I said, the slow smile spreading over Batel's face. And
Mhm.
also they're schooling their faces, they're not revealing much, but if you look in their eyes, like the lead judge, the admiral, her eyes just kind of, she's kind of realizing what's going on here. And I don't think she gives away how they're going to rule, but the the rise in the estimation of both Una and Cthulhu in the eyes of the judge, I think, is apparent. And I really like that very subtle bit of acting as well.
Oh, absolutely. And this questioning also brings about a catharsis between
Yes.
Una and Nira, because Una flat out explains why they had this falling out. I mean, we, the audience, know that. The court doesn't know anything about it. But she talks about how um, the cousin of her best friend, we knew her best friend was Nira, was found out to be an Illyrian. He was 10 years old, and he and his family were arrested. And Una did nothing, said nothing, because she could hide her particular augments. And apparently so could he. But something had happened, and someone must have seen him glowing when he was, when his augmentations were working to heal something. And so, yeah, but then she told the story about what happened to her, that she almost died because of that infection in her leg, and if they hadn't found someone to who would be friendly to an Illyrian and not report them to help her. Yeah. and
Mhm.
and Nira doesn't know that. You can see that on her face when she says, "I am so sorry."
Yeah.
She didn't know that. So it's a beautiful scene from top to bottom, and serves a couple of purposes, and just all of all of the things, any thread that was introduced in here is perfectly tied off. It's just perfection. It's
Mhm.
perfection.
Yeah, and like I said, there's not a wasted shot. There's not a
Mm-mm.
wasted line of dialogue in this episode. Like it is a textbook example of a perfectly constructed Star Trek episode. And also, there's no phaser fights. There's no, it's just this human drama, you know what I mean? Personal drama playing out in this courtroom over the course of the hour, and then the resulting relationships and everything outside of that. It's so good. Like I can't stress how much this episode blew me away.
Mhm.
um yeah, I if people are finding fault in this episode, they are stretching to do so, because they're, yeah, it's great.
It's one of those things that you will never forget. The people 20, 30 years from now are going to point to this episode and say this is one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever. They'll still be
Mhm.
pointing to that episode, and it'll be up there with Measure of a Man. It's all I can say is let the women be in charge more, because obviously they can churn out some really great things.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
this
more female directors, more female writers, please. Thank you.
here, here. This was wonderful. And Nira Katul, I really hope we see her again because she
Everybody wants to
was
see her again.
terrific.
Yeah, Yetide Badaki. I gotta say her name right. Yetide Badaki. Apparently, well, not apparently, because this comes straight from the mouth of Rebecca Romaine. Yetide knows more about Star Trek than Rebecca does,
Oh,
and
wow.
that's saying something. And Yetide was schooling her in some stuff, and she's like, "How do you know this?"
Oh, that's
So,
amazing.
yeah, she's a huge Star Trek fan, and I hope they find more for her to do in this universe, because I would love to see her again. She was absolutely magnetic when she was talking, even when she was just looking. Even when she didn't even have any dialogue. If the camera was on her, that was the only thing you saw. She had such a presence that could not be discounted. She stole every scene she was in. So,
Mhm.
which I wouldn't say stealing. It wasn't really scene stealing, because this this episode just basically puts strong women at the forefront. La'an, Uhura, uh, Batel, Nira,
Yeah.
Una, all of these strong women at the
Mhm.
forefront. And did anyone feel like something was missing? No, there was nothing missing, because you don't lose anything when you put strong women at the forefront.
Yeah. No, she didn't steal scenes because when she walked into the scene was hers. Like,
Yeah,
it
it
was
was hers,
already
already
hers.
hers. She owned everything. She owned that episode completely.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, I can just keep, um, singing the praises of this episode. I know there's a lot we haven't talked about, but, I just is there anything that you wish to add to the discussion that we haven't talked about?
Well, they're not things that really come up for a lot of discussion per se, but I enjoyed watching Pike violently cut carrots when
I
Battelle
was
was
worried for
making
his
a mess.
fingers a couple times there.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that a lot. I do also love at the end when everybody has now exited the transporter room and Pike just grabs Una and hugs
Oh,
her. And
yeah,
then he steps back and like hits her in the arm like we're buddies.
yeah.
Like, are you though?
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I I like also that it seems that Pike and Battelle are going to come through this on the other side as well. Like, it really was nothing personal, and
Hmm.
Battelle honestly wished she wasn't the person that had to do this, probably.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think we see trailers of them. Not no scenes that we've seen this season anyway with the two of them together. So I really like her. I hope we see more of her, and I really like their relationship, that they can have this kind of falling out a little bit, this kind of
Hmm.
being on opposite sides, where voices are raised a bit. She's a little bit like, I can't believe you're doing this, and he's like, I can't believe you're doing this. And glad he
Mm.
threw a piece of carrot at the end and not a knife.
Yeah.
He was not happy. um
I did
but
like the subtitle of carrot clattering.
that's awesome. I didn't see that. That's great. Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
um But yeah, I really have nothing to add other than to ask you, I guess, for and the folks in the comments, final ratings and your final thoughts on Ad Astra per Aspera.
Yeah. There was one other thing. I did like the scene where Pike was walking down the street and all of the Illyrians were staring at him like he was the weirdo. That was an
Mhm.
interesting thing to sort of shine a light on what it would have been like for Una to be amongst humans and have them know that she was an Illyrian. It would have been the same sort of thing. This episode was brilliant. It had everything that you needed and more for a courtroom drama, and it shines a light again on the issues that we're dealing with right now in this world, and reminding us of our better selves and to reach for those better selves. Unfortunately, the people in power often don't do that because they're too concerned with their own selves and what they want and what they can get out of everything. So, yeah. But this was brilliant from top to bottom. I do recommend going and watching The Ready Room so that you can see Will talking to Rebecca Romaine and all the fun little things that she told us about that. And this is just one great big beautiful book of Starfleet Uniform Code of Justice.
I kind of want that prop. I don't know where
I
the heck
want
I'd
it.
put it, but I
I
love it.
absolutely want it. No, but I want it to be the actual thing. I want there to be that code freaking in there. All the Starfleet.
Yep. Every page.
I want that.
The folks over at Memory Alpha would be busy for like 10 years transcribing every single bit of it. I love it.
They would. It's a beautiful, beautiful book. I love that it was an actual book. And not a pad.
That's cool. Yeah, so much more satisfying in that moment to be holding that and to flip to the right page and stuff rather than just handing a pad to Battelle and her. Like, I loved that. I thought that was a really nice, just tactile moment. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a quick thing. I was like, it was bugging me and I still hadn't looked up to this point. The assistant that Pike talks to is running out of air. She's like, oh God, oh God, oh God. She's a Canadian actor, Kimberly Ann Trong, who I know from Run the Burbs, apparently, because I'm like, she looks so familiar. So if you watch Run the Burbs, if you're Canadian, she was also in one episode of Kim's Convenience. Run the Burbs is a show. The lead character is played by a guy who is a supporting character in Kim's Convenience. So anyway, those words don't mean a lot to very many people outside of Canada, but hopefully if you're watching, that's who
I've heard of those shows. I haven't seen them, but I've heard of them. No. She looks familiar to me too, but I haven't looked at her IMDb to figure out why she looks familiar to me. So
no, I just finally did now because it was bugging me. And yeah, that was a good use of my time. But this episode, again, I can just keep saying over and over how much I love the performances, the crew watching the proceedings and their reactions, and when the topic of when Pike knew came up, everybody just kind of glances at him and he's watching the screen. Like, there's so many subtleties in a lot of the performances here that are so good. So
and Spock finally outing her on Gilbert and Sullivan musicals.
That was fun. That was great. Nice little callback to Short Treks. I enjoyed that for sure. But yeah, I'm gonna have to give this. Oh man, what do I give this episode? I mean, I give this like the Drumhead plus Measure of a Man times court martial, I guess. I don't know. Like, it's so good. But yeah. Top episode, best episode of Strange New Worlds for sure. Best episode of all the new Star Trek, very probably. Within the top 10 of all episodes of all time, I'd say. I'm not ready to say where in that top 10, but it's in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, I don't like to rank things because I love so many things, but this is, if I had to rank this, it would be way high on the list of all-time best Trek.
100%. Well, with that said, I guess all that's left to say is that we will be back next week. Unfortunately, and I'm going to drop this on you now, Brandi. I haven't talked to you about this beforehand. Not at the regular time. Next Saturday, I will be busy. And probably for most Saturdays after that, actually, during the day. So we're going to have
Ooh.
to figure this out. Next Saturday, July 1st, which is Canada Day, but is also the wedding of my podcast co-host, Barry DeFord. So I
Oh.
will be attending that, presumably all during the day and in the evening. So I'm not sure when we will do a live show, but we have to do a live show for next week's episode,
Mhm.
which is called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
Mhm.
And I am so excited to talk about that episode with everybody.
I know, me too.
So keep an eye out. Maybe Friday night. I think I work till 4:30 on Friday, so maybe Friday evening. I don't know if
Yeah,
that'll
that's
work
fine.
for people, but we'll figure it out. Keep an eye on the feed, at Kurtrats on Twitter, the Facebook Positively Trek discussion group. It'll be posted in there. And of course, here on the channel, I'll make a post as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
because I
I
want to
ba-
talk about that episode so bad.
I basically have no life. So, and I like it that way. Don't feel bad for me. I like not leaving the house. I truly, truly do. So, whenever, I work during the day, during the week, you know that, Dan. So, but
Mhm.
after that, you just let me know. I'll be there.
Awesome. Sounds good. And how's Boldly Go going?
It's going well. It's going well so far. The episode 2, the our review of episode 2 is out now. Um, again with Ashley Thomas, aka the nerdy blogger. We had a lot of fun with that. The next one is not going to come out on the same day as the episode of S&W drops, because I will be recording with someone who does not have access to the screeners.
Hmm.
So that one probably won't come out until the following episode is actually out. So because I'm recording on July 5th with that person, and July 6th is when the next S&W comes out after that. So it'll be just all over the place for the rest of this new season. It's just the way it is. So deal with it. And I'm the only one editing. So there you go.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
I know what that's like. Oh,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
I won the
It's
lottery,
okay.
the first thing I do is hire an editor. Like that
I
is
know,
literally
right?
the first thing I do.
Well, see, the nice thing is that I have a job with a lot of downtime. So
Mm.
that's all he's saying about that.
Nice. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you at some point next week. Until then, as always, live long and prosper. Live
Live
logs
logs.
and proper. I can't do it with that hand. I can do it with this hand. Bye, everybody.